Afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's webinar, very kindly presented by Anneli Thomson of Sandler Training. Anneli will be sharing her expertise around managing teams during a crisis. Whilst there is possibly some light at the end of the tunnel regarding easing, certainly this information will be invaluable moving forward, as invariably our work practices will have to evolve, certainly for the foreseeable future. Please do submit questions along the way and I'll save them for a Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I will hand over to Anneli. Thank you, Anneli.
Thank you very much. And welcome to everybody who's joined us. And if you're listening to the recording, welcome later down the line. I hope you're listening with a glass of wine. So I'm going to be looking at how we lead and manage a team during a crisis. So we're going to cover a couple of things. Some big picture views of, I guess, some of the psychology that our teams are going through at the moment, and also then a few tactical things that we can hopefully use in our business straight away. I might even share a few tips and techniques that you think, yeah, we're doing that. And if so, brilliant, well done, keep up with it. That's fantastic. Know that you're on the right track. If there are a few new things that you can use, then that's fantastic as well. So just as an aside, my company is Sandler Training, and we are a management consulting and sales training company. And then outside of work, I am also have quite an involved hobby. So I am in Team Great Britain for triathlon. So as we go through this afternoon, I'm going to be calling upon some of my Sandler knowledge for business and some of my sporting knowledge as well, because I think they can both help us at the moment with what we're all going through. So it's going to be interactive. So I would suggest you might need a piece of paper in front of you, boys and girls, just to write a few notes, because I'm going to ask you some questions. You don't necessarily need to write them in the chat or anything, but it's more for a little bit of self-reflection. So I guess the last thing I want to leave us with before I jump into it is, yes, the title is Leading and Managing Your Team During a Crisis, but I think we could also have the title as sort of how to bring your team back strongly, because yes, it's stuff we should be doing right now, but I also want us to be thinking of, as we come out of this, how do we bounce back stronger? How do we come out of it in as strong a position as we can? So let me go through to my next slide. There we go. Let me see what I've done here. There we go, thank you. So, smooth as anything. First question I'd like you to think about, and perhaps write down some answers for yourself, is the following. What have the unexpected bonuses been from lockdown? And that might be for the team or for your business overall. I don't mind how you look at it, but I do think that when we look or listen to the media or the popular press, we can spend a lot of time in some of the negative stuff about, the billions of pounds it's costing the economy, or how many businesses are going under. And I'm not saying this isn't true, and there are negative impacts to it. But I think for all of us as well, there will have been some unexpected bonuses. So I'm going to just be quiet for 30 seconds. And I want you to write down for you, so for your team or for your business, what those have been. So I'll just be quiet for a moment to let you gather your thoughts. Okay, so hopefully we've managed to write something. Here are a few that I did. I asked a few of my clients the same question, and let's see if you recognize any of these. So, obviously the question is around team and business. So yes, I know one of the unexpected bonuses has been spending more time with our family, but for the team and for business, the things that came up when I asked my clients were, they've actually discovered how effective people can work, how effectively, I guess, people can work from home, which surprised lots of the owners that I was speaking to. They thought that actually in their line of business, it wasn't possible for people to work from home. So particularly there, I was thinking of one of my clients who's got a mid-sized architects firm. He said that in his line of business, it would never have been possible in the past for people to work from home, but because they've had no option, they've realized it's totally possible. It was just their own tradition that was stopping this. Someone else said that it actually made them really look at the sort of clients they wanted to work with. They spent some time with their other directors dissecting what a good client and a bad client looked like in their organization, and decided that actually moving forward they wouldn't expend much more energy with those bad clients or those negative clients. They would spend more time on a different sort. Another client of mine, a mid-sized PR agency, also realized they changed who their ideal client was, because they could see a particular sector of the economy were spending money at the moment. So they pivoted from who they used to work with to them at the moment so they could get through. So whatever we've written down, I'm pleased we managed to find some unexpected bonuses. Second question then. Oh gosh, I've done it again. Okay, so just a second, guys. I've managed to get, there we go. So second question. What obstacles do you see will occur as part of returning, and whether that's returning to business as usual or just returning to work or to the office, I don't mind, but what are some of those obstacles? So again, I'll be quiet for a moment just so you can make a little note for yourself. Okay, so some of the ones again that came up for previously when I asked some people was a client of mine who has a web design company, said actually she could see one of the problems was that some of her team, because they're developers and they're quite introverted, were really enjoying working from home and actually didn't particularly want to come back to the office. So when she opens her office again, how was she going to make this either, decide, do they have to come into the office? Is it going to be a blended approach? Is it they can work from home? What's important? Someone else told me that one of their obstacles they could see is that people might not feel safe about returning. And someone else said that there's not a lot of clarity at the moment with what people should be doing with their time, and they weren't sure how to help their team do the best job that they could do. So whatever the obstacles are, I think keep those in your mind as we go through some of the things that we're looking at today and see what we can apply to help us with that. So what I want us to think about at the moment is our teams, our team members, our direct reports, whatever's appropriate for you as they work from home at the moment. So they're aiming to do a best job as possible, but they're probably going through the following process. So first of all, they are, I don't know why my slides keep not going on. So first of all, they're doing their best. They're working hard, they're working from home, and they're doing their absolute best. However, things are different. Things are outside their control. Let's use the example of a business development executive because it shows it the most neatly. But not at all the only one that's affected by this. So let's say this is someone that's client facing, BD executive. So they're working hard, but now they can't go and visit people. They're getting less meetings. So they come up with quite a few. Skipping. Little challenge for my slides here, guys. Sorry about that. There we go. Let me just pop them all up so that I don't have to keep playing around. So they're working hard. Then they perhaps come up with some excuses as to why they're not getting the results that they want. And not that the excuses aren't valid, you know, coronavirus, everything's changing, but it leads into the next one, that they're having some limited results. These limited results are coming apart because of everything that's going on, which makes this team member panic. And I want you to imagine almost an arrow back up to the beginning there, which means that now they absolutely panic and work even harder, but work in a sort of scattergun approach, so that now they absolutely get even more limited results, which brings more of those excuses, which increases the panic because they're not quite sure which direction they should be going in, although they're well-meaning with it. So we would call it sort of like spaghetti work. You know, throw enough of that spaghetti at the wall, they're hoping some of it's going to stick. Yet in time, the stuff they thought that had stuck is starting to slide down the walls, and they're left with nothing, and they don't feel very fulfilled with it. Now, we as managers and leaders probably have another couple of steps that we're going through at the moment. And let me just see if this works. And what we're doing at the moment, perhaps, is we know that we need to motivate our team. So that's fantastic. So maybe right at the beginning of lockdown, or when we all had to work from home, we broadcast the message to everyone, you know, we're going to get through this. Come on, guys, we can do this. Now everybody went off to work from home. We think we've done our motivating part. And then we do a bit of coaching. We see those who need extra help. We spend some one-to-one time. We're reaching out to people. Then we can see that because these results are not coming as much as we thought, or the results are drifting, they need to be reminded of what our targets are, or our expectations of them. Maybe just to keep our team in line. Then they need a little bit of extra help. So perhaps we do a bit of their job for them. We answer those questions. We're just available if they need to ring us, which continues that help cycle. Once we enforce a culture of learned helplessness with our team, it doesn't go away. They just keep asking us more and more questions, and as a manager or the leadership team, we think it's helpful if we can play sort of name that tune. So they go, oh, I need some help. We go, here's what you need to do. And the problem there is it doesn't make our people self-sufficient, and makes them always reliant on us, and makes us as the leaders and managers feel very run ragged and not being very efficient in our role. So we don't want to necessarily get into this, and we don't want to help our team get into the previous cycle of working hard, excuses, limited results, and then panic. So instead, we want to look at what are some things that we can do that change these, and look at things in a slightly different way, perhaps. So the first one is, at the moment in this current crisis, I appreciate none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know what the future is going to look like. We don't know when we're going to be allowed back to work, what the shape are going to be look like, etc., etc. And I'm not expecting us to. However, as the leaders or the managers, whatever our role is in the company, we need to be as clear as we can over the stuff that we can control. So what I mean by that is, we need to be clear on two areas. One, what do we expect our team to be achieving at the moment while they're working from home in lockdown? And make this really granular. Make sure you've defined this by role. So if you are, let's say it's your business and you've got an operations department, a service department, and a client-facing department, make it really, really spend some time and get clarity for each of those roles. What do you expect your operations department to be doing right now while they're working from home? What do you expect your service department to be doing? What do you expect your client-facing department to be doing? Because you'd be surprised that we might have outlined it to our team once a few weeks ago, but they've forgotten. They no longer remember what is expected of them, because we've all gone through so many periods of change. We've had to assimilate into this new normal, that we really need to make sure we are being super, super clear. The second thing we need to get clarity on, and it's just as much as we can control it, is if this is, you know, like I say, your team or your business, you need to make sure you have a plan for what going back to work or coming out of lockdown looks like for your team, your department, whatever you're in charge of. And you need to come up with 2 plans. One is your best case scenario, so whatever that looks like. And 2 is your least acceptable, but still acceptable scenario. And you need to have a plan A, best case, plan B, least acceptable, but still acceptable scenario that you've worked out, and you then share with your team. Because at the moment, as they're working from home, they don't know what the future looks like. We don't know 100% what it looks like, but they are looking to us as leaders to give them some clarity. So we need to go, right then, guys, here are the couple of options as far as I can tell. We're expecting, so I did this with my team. Yeah, so we're just a small company in Sandler. I've got 30 offices across the UK. So we've, had some conferences where we've gone, right, guys, here's what it looks like. Best case scenario is, this is the date, we're all going back, here are the procedures that will be in place. Worst case scenario is, it's this date, here's what the things look like, here's the blended approach, here's how it will work. Because I think at the moment, we can be scared of offering a solution for the future in case it changes. And that's the wrong way to look at it. It can change and we can adapt our plan, but we need to be there to outline the future as far as we can define it for our team, because they need help. They need to see where it's going. Otherwise, they stay in their paralysis of the current situation. So that's the first thing. And we covered 2 things there. Remember, 1, what do you expect them to achieve while working from home in each role? And 2, what's the clarity for coming out of it? Best case scenario, worst case scenario. The next thing I want us to think about is, no one goes to work, whether it's at home or in the office, with the intention to do a bad job. So all our team are sitting there doing their best within whatever their home circumstances are. Remember, some will be homeschooling and some will be, dealing with sick relatives, whatever. We've just got to make sure that we know they're doing the best job that they can. So let's take one of the concepts we just looked at, where we were talking about what do we expect them to achieve while working from home, and just drill down onto it into a super granular level, and hopefully we'll be able to roll it out in our businesses straight away, is not only what do you expect them to achieve by role, but what are the 2 to 3 activities that each role can control? So it's there 100% in their control that they can do on a sort of weekly basis while working from home. So whatever that is. So if we use the example I was talking about before, someone who is client facing. So perhaps they're used to visiting clients. Now they can't do that, but the stuff they can control are outbound calls to clients to check in on them. They could also control making sure they're connected with them on LinkedIn. And they might also be able to control writing copy for some case studies with the clients. So there's 3 behaviors that they'd be able to control on a consistent, regular basis. Because these 2 to 3 activities that we need to lead our team through is what helps them realize they're still got a worthy job and they're making a difference, because people like to feel productive. And what we need to realize is that, and probably we felt it, is that over the last couple of months, our team might not have felt very productive. They might have just felt like they're just getting through and they're just sort of muddling to make ends meet with it all. And actually, if we help them set these 2 to 3 behaviors, and the key is that they can 100% control, they start to feel back in control of things and they take those steps towards feeling more fulfilled in their role again. And this is just something I took from the world of sport. So, as I said to you at the beginning, I'm in Team Great Britain for a triathlon. And essentially, throughout the summer, I'm always training to compete at my next race. So the deadline's there, I'm working out what I need to do. So instead, I've had to change that to go, okay, I no longer need to be as goal orientated on the races in the same way. What are my key training sessions that I need to get done every week to feel like I'm still a committed athlete? So at the beginning of lockdown, I just wrote those down. So for me at the moment, It would be exercising 6 days out of 7, 2 sessions a day. And I wrote down that therefore that means I would need to do an endurance run, an interval run, an endurance bike, an interval bike, some arm weight training to replicate swimming, so obviously I can't get in the pool, and then some core workouts as well, so some strength and conditioning. So I wrote those all down, spoke to my coach, put them in my training plan. So now each week I feel like I'm still an athlete, even though there's actually no races to compete at. So, you know, I could also have gone down the line of what's the point, but I chose not to because I still want to give myself worth and fulfilling career as an athlete. The next thing in work then, if we help our team with what the 2 or 3 activities they can be doing right now are, is then we should co-create with our team or our direct reports that once they come back to work or lockdown is lifted, whichever the appropriate term is for you and your business, is when we get back to whatever normal is, what are the 2 or 3 activities that they can change when everything's a little bit easier? So now you come up with that and then together it's co-created, and now your team will tell you what else they can change. So therefore that clarity of what our going back to work looks like, they now tell you what the other activities they're going to do. So take our client facing person, they might go, well, when everything's back to normal, I'd like to start doing some more cold calls and I'd like to start visiting more clients. Brilliant, that's their words, not our words. That's fantastic. And then when the date happens, we can remind them of that plan and go through and put them in place. Yeah, same if it's a service department, same activities. What's the 2 or 3 things they can control now? When they go back to work, what are the 2 or 3 things they'd like to change and add in and do differently? So you're helping your teammates come up with what's a behavior plan for now and what's a behavior plan for the future. So you're lifting their gaze past the current situation and the crisis into the future, so we can see that this too shall pass. We will get through this and we will go on to, you know, back to work, which means that businesses that help our teammates do this get back running a little bit faster, rather than get back into the office, have to redefine what it looks like, and we're having to get going from a standing start then. So just to refresh there, that's what the 2 or 3 activities they 100% control that we could be doing now, and what's the 2 or 3 activities that they'd like to add in when everything is lifted, a change. So don't let them just say more of the same. What are the new things we could be doing? The next bit I wanted to think about, and some of you might do something like this. This is a part of goal setting. It's sometimes called a vision board, but really it's a goal board. So it's your visual representation of your goals for the year. Now, if you already do goal setting with your direct reports or your team members, most people do it in January or at the end of December, ready for the next new year. Some people do it in April if that's when your financial year starts. Whenever you did it, you need to do it again. Because I realized maybe about 5 or 6 weeks ago that I'd lost a little bit of my love for it all. I couldn't figure out what the problem was and why I just wasn't as excited about sitting down at my desk anymore. And it linked back to my goals, because what we need to realize is people come to work for their reasons, not for your reasons. And I realized that on my goal board for 2020, I'd either already achieved all the things on there that I could, or I couldn't achieve them anymore because they were traveling or seeing friends and it was no longer possible. So I thought, gosh, so I spent some time, this is my adapted one, this is my new one, and I reset my goals for the next 8 to 9 months of 2020 to pick stuff that I could do. So it's a personal example for mine. If we see on the top right hand corner here, I've got lots of stuff about triathlon. Obviously, I had certain races that I wanted to win, certain races that I wanted to podium at, and that was no longer appropriate because they're not going ahead. So if my only goal was winning races, I definitely wasn't going to do the training that was required because the goal wasn't relevant anymore. So instead, I've got lots of things there as making triathlon part of who I am, like a stick of rock. If you cut me through, it says triathlon and Sandler. about doing it for the joy of the training and enjoying the process rather than just having it there as a way to beat people I don't know. And I did this, it was an aha for me, so I then did it with my team. And it really made a difference in the level of commitment, togetherness, and I guess intimacy with my team of the stuff that I found out about them that they were now choosing as important. And you can do this at home. You just set the parameters. You say to everyone, hey, would like to know us all to set our goals for the next year. So you're giving them the set amount of time. Get them to grab whatever magazines they've got around their house. Now that bit's really important because it's about bringing the right part of the brain out as we search for the pictures rather than just taking it off Google. You use a different part of our brain. Set them an afternoon, hour and a half, need you to come up with pictures, stick it on what other bit of paper cards you've got. Lots of my clients did it with family, and let's see what we come up with. Because now people are being forced to pick what's important to them, that you really find out about what motivates your team. And I guess the other bit is about what they choose is important for them for this year. So it's a great little technique. If we haven't done it already, I really, really suggest you do it. If this isn't your thing, just a discussion with your team about what their goals are and what they've reset them as for 2020 is important as well. Because we need to realize people are feeling directionless. And as the leadership team, it's our job to give them the direction. And yes, I have a work part on mine here, but people, work is just a vehicle for people to achieve all their other goals and dreams in life. And it's about realizing that and finding out what's important. Why do they come to work every day? What's going to keep them pushing to be the best version of themselves at work, whether they work from home on their kitchen table or at the office. And the last thing I guess I just wanted to touch on was a little bit of structure for how we help our teams be as efficient and as effective as possible is our meeting rhythm. So when we were back in our offices, lots of people had a meeting rhythm. It typically tended to be a sort of annual meeting where we told the whole company how we did last year, set our goals for next year. We maybe then had a quarterly or a monthly meeting where we checked our goals year to date. And then perhaps we had a weekly meeting where we looked at what the priorities were for that week. Now, lots of us have kept those, which is fantastic. But some of us had left some of them drop maybe in place. We've put like a coffee morning on Zoom or whatever video platform of your choice. It's important to go back to that and perhaps even add more in, because we cannot over communicate enough with our team at this time. So in my organization, we also do a daily huddle. When we were in the office, it was a stand-up meeting. So everyone came at 9:30 on every day. We stood up, we went through the following 2 things with everybody. What are your priorities for the day? Are there any bottlenecks? Do you need to speak to anyone about anything? And if you're thinking in your organization, getting everyone together is too many, do it by department. Now we just do that remotely via Zoom. And it's been really important to still keep that structure so people felt it was familiar and did the same things. But you always ask those questions. Priorities for the day, any bottlenecks? It's not a general chat. If you want to put the social interaction, put it somewhere else. This is a work-based one, and you might need to control it. If you've got 10 people on your Zoom, you sometimes need to tell them the order. So I'd go, right, it's Matthew first, and then we're going to go to James. And then James says, I go, James next, and now it's going to be Tom. So they know and they're prepared for when it comes up, rather than going, oh, I haven't got my list because they didn't know you're about to call on them. So keep that meeting rhythm, but I suppose link it to the next thing as well of meeting rhythm's great, but I think there's a little bit of, I don't know if it's the right word, but like Zoom or video conferencing fatigue at the moment, because we all adapted to it and we all started sending out links, and perhaps it's been a little bit overused as well, is that sometimes we could have said really succinctly to someone, here are the 5 things I need to talk to you about, having a little bit of a challenge with them, when's a good time? And they can reply and go, oh gosh, here's the update on these. Let's jump onto Zoom for 5 minutes just to do an update, when before we might have been asking for an hour meeting to go through each of those agenda items in place. So I think the point here is keep our meeting rhythm, But for the informal stuff and the other bits and pieces where we would just go to someone's office and go, oh, hey, how you doing? We don't always have to use the video conferencing details. They are important, but sometimes it's better to get the gist of it in an email and spend 10 minutes face to face rather than sit a whole hour face to face and then both feel like it's a little bit of waste of your time and no one got to the point quickly enough. And then group and one-to-one. As managers or leaders, lots of the time we pick up on things on the informal. So we're walking past someone while they're on the phone and we pick something up, we asked them about it earlier. So at the moment, we've missed that. So we might be doing our group interaction. That's been something I find lots of companies have been good at because they've been trying to keep the office environment. So whether it's a Friday quiz or a Wednesday coffee morning or a Thursday evening happy hour, there's lots of group stuff going on. However, as a manager or leader, don't discount the one-to-one bits where you just call someone out of the blue. So I could ring my colleague Paul and I could go, hey Paul, just checking in, how is it going? Might be really quick. They might go, it's great, don't need to talk to you about anything. Or we might go, I'm really struggling today, I need a little bit of help. So if you are a manager or a leader or you have some direct reports, I would suggest one of your behaviors, if we link back to one of my points there about what are things we are 100% in control of, one of your behaviors at the moment should be to, set yourself a goal number of people to call. It depends how many direct reports you have, but how many check-in one-to-one calls should you do every week? Because it's some of the things that we've forgotten to do because we're too busy doing all the other stuff. And it doesn't take very long. And if I called Paul and he goes, oh, I've got so many things I want to talk to you about, I'd go, oh, that's great. Well, I've got 10 minutes now. Shall we make a start? And if we don't cover it all, why don't we set another time? Because now he knows I'm here for him. And actually, if they get used to me always calling, just not every day, like once a week, once every other week, it's fine. Maybe once a month if you've got a lot of direct reports. But that one-to-one time is important. So we've been talking about sort of leading and motivating and managing your team through a crisis. So I think that's I'm done. So that's my last slide there. So I'm about to pass back over to Sarah. Here's my email address there, guys. Equally, I'm on LinkedIn. I have a very memorable name of Anneli Thomson. I believe there is only one Anneli Thomson, but who knows? So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please go ahead and do it. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time. And back to Sarah.
Thank you, Anneli. Would you mind putting my next slide up for me?
Absolutely.
You've still got control. That was.
I'll do it now.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That was really, really useful. Thank you so much for doing that for us. Just wanted to pick up on a couple of points that you made, if you don't mind. Because you asked what the unexpected bonus was, and actually one of our attendees, who's just disappeared, but Mike Bagshaw from International Taste Solutions, I had a chat with him and he said actually not having to go and see clients where he would normally drive, say, an hour and a half and go and see one of his clients face to face. He said the commuting time saved, not to mention the petrol, has been amazing. So people may now think differently about, do I need to jump on a plane to go and visit someone in Hong Kong or Scotland or wherever? So that's a kind of bonus, I suppose, the less commuting time. However, I find personally, I have less thinking time because I do a lot of my thinking and planning for the day.
I agree.
On the morning commute. So I'll drive because it might take me an hour and a half to get to work, and I'll kind of structure, right, I've got X, Y, and Z to do when I get to the office, and then I'm going to set aside time for doing this, that, and the other. So whilst I'm saving the driving, and I can log onto my laptop much earlier in the morning, because I don't have the driving, I find that I have a little less structure to my day. So I then become guilty of the spaghetti work because I think somebody needs my attention, I'll jump on that straight away. Whereas had I been in the office or under normal circumstances, I'd have said, right, I'm not looking at emails for an hour because I'm going to hit the phones. Or
well, actually, and if I just jump in on that, Sarah, it's something that I've been doing and I found it really useful, and maybe something you helped with you, is I've been keeping to quite strict time. So normally I get to the office at 8:30. So I still don't turn my laptop on till 8:30 now, but I still do a sort of commute. So I've only got a half-hour journey to work. So at 8 o'clock, I make sure I've had my breakfast, I've done everything, and I go and sit down, not at my desk, normally in my lounge, and plan my day. And I give myself that thinking time, because actually, exactly as you're feeling, otherwise I'm just not as effective. And I do it the other way. So at the end of the day, whenever I normally leave the office, I make sure I turn my computer off and I go and sit down and I do a little bit of reflection on, what went well, what do I want to do tomorrow? And I found it's given me a little bit of space, a sort of, I don't know, a virtual commute, let's call it, but it's a lot more comfortable. And sometimes there's wine in the evening one more than the morning one, if I'm fair.
That's brilliant, thank you. One other question as well. Would you recommend, as a manager of staff, so would you recommend senior management team actually set a daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, target of whatever it might be for that particular role? So say you're normally customer facing, or a sales staff, etc. Say, right, I need you to make X number of calls per day, whether they be existing account management calls or prospecting calls. Would you set an actual physical target? Or
I would. I'd set a goal, and I'd actually maybe co-create it with the role. I'd say, right, we need to, I think it's fair that we call those, do those outbound calls to existing customers. How many do you think we should make? And I'd probably start off monthly. How many do you think we should make every month? Because then they say, oh, I think we should make 200. And you go, fantastic. So what's the match there if we divide that by 4 for a week? Because they've set a bigger number for a month, and then it's our job to bring it back to, right, what's that a week? What's that a day? But co-create it, because people, as leaders and managers, we discover that our team believe their own data. If it's come out of their mouth, they believe it's true. If we say it, I'm afraid it's propaganda.
Brilliant. Anneli, thank you so much. So this webinar will be available obviously on the library, the Thames Valley Chamber webinar library. There's also an awful lot more information around COVID. Please do stay in touch with your account manager, stay in touch with the website, and of course all the social media platforms for current updates from both us, the British Chambers, and central government, of course. Fill in all the surveys that we send you, please. I know they can get a bit tedious, but actually it's really important that the information we take from Thames Valley businesses is fed back up the line through the board, through the British Chambers, and does get heard by central government, in order that we can help shape the future, whatever that might look like. Thank you for listening, everybody, and stay well. Thank you again, Anneli, and we will see you very soon. You take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.